It's time for Wise Money with Korhorn Financial Group with certified financial planners Kevin Korhorn, Mike Bernard, and Josh Gregory.
Welcome to another episode of the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group, where every week we're helping you take your next wise step in your financial life. Thanks for being here, friends. My name is Mike Bernard. I am your host. I'm also one of the certified financial planners on the program. And with me in the KFG studios, my business partners and fellow CFPs, Kevin Korhorn and Josh Gregory.
Healthcare expenses tend to be one of the biggest costs in retirement, and yet many people fail to plan properly for this crucial item. So what does it actually cost, and what should you be doing right now to prepare? We're answering that and more on today's episode of The Wise Money Show.
Yeah, when you're planning ahead for retirement, most people, you're saving as much as you can, but you also need to be projecting out, well, what's retirement going to look like? That's critically important so that you save up the right amount. How much should you be planning for healthcare in retirement? What are the costs? We'll do even a little Medicare 101, talk about HSAs, IRMAA, long-term care, all that ahead. If you have a question for the program, we'd love to hear from you. If you have any needs as well, reach out. You can call or text us, 574-222-2000. That's 574-222-2000. Online, wisemoneyshow.com is where you can find us. Reach out to us that way. And then all over social media, wherever you're at, we are there as well. Search The Wise Money Show. All right, guys, hot take. Medicare going to be around in 20 years. What do you think? Just yes or no answers.
It better be.
Yeah? Okay. But think about
I'll
it.
care a lot more in 20 years, even more.
I mean, we're talking about planning ahead. We're not talking about, okay, you're 64. How do you plan for Medicare? That's like on the doorstep. We've done plenty of shows. You need help. You work with your CFP. I'm talking about if you're preparing and you're saving up for retirement, is Medicare going to be there when you need it? Kevin, what do you think?
Well, I think Medicare's here today, and that's what we know. And that's what we have to plan on. Because how is it going to change? I don't know. I know it's going to change. I just don't know how. And so is it going to be a robot that's taking care of me? What is it going to be that takes care of me? Are we all going to be on a GLP and be living to 120? I don't know. Yeah. Are drugs, are advanced? Is AI going to solve a number of health issues for us? I don't know. I know right now.
Seems like there needs to be some help because Medicare is at an unsustainable pace. We
know there are problems with it.
Yeah, we know the challenges and problems with Social Security, and that feels like it gets more of the headlines. Medicare is apparently worse, and it doesn't make headlines.
That's exactly right. It seems to be unsustainable in its current form, and part of that is just the rising cost of healthcare. It just is steadily marching higher and higher, and in that regard, I feel like you do have to assume that it's going to be there in some form or another, but don't assume that it's going to be as affordable as it is today.
Oh gosh, and that's a tricky word because one of the clear trends, and this is going to weave into why this is such a critical issue that you need to be planning for. One of the clear trends with Medicare and health expenses in retirement is they are rising. They're increasing. We saw an increase in the Medicare Part B premium from 2025 to 2026 of nearly 10%. How quickly Medicare costs are increasing has been staggering, and so you need to plan ahead. And get this, most people are not planning ahead for Medicare. When you're saving up and you're kind of building your retirement nest egg, Kevin loves that phrase. As you're saving up, you've got to, okay, what are you saving for? What do you expect to spend in retirement? Most people do not plan for healthcare expenses in retirement. Guys, why do you think that is?
I would blame that on some of the online calculators that are out there that maybe oversimplify what it is to even prepare for retirement or forecast what you're going to need in retirement. You know, you can go online and find dozens and dozens of options that will basically ask you just a few questions and then all of a sudden spit out a number that you need to be driving towards or maybe even a dollar amount that you need to be saving. But those few questions are oversimplified. It's often just, hey, what percentage of today's income do you think you'll be living off of out there in the future?
If I could permanently erase from the face of the earth a financial question, it's that one. Guys,
what
honestly,
percentage?
Yeah, what percentage of today's income do you think you'll spend in retirement? That is Can I be any more mean? Like, that's the dumbest financial question I think there is. And if you're watching on YouTube, please tell me some other dumb questions in the financial world. That makes no sense.
Yeah.
It makes no sense in my opinion, because where most people or most financial calculators, or gosh, get this, like the worry is that your financial advisor, let's just call him an investment advisor, is trying to do a quick and dirty retirement analysis and posturing it as if it's a full, robust plan that you can make big decisions off of, the biggest financial decisions of your life. And they're using an input like that. Mm-hmm. But typically it's 80% or 70%. Okay, you've got 100% of your income. 7.65% goes to FICA. You're not
today as you're working, you mean?
Right. It's not that 7.65. You're not going to have to pay FICA in retirement unless you're working, right? And then hopefully 15% is going towards retirement, another percentage going towards benefits. I don't know where this 70% comes from. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Maybe you're hoping that your mortgage is gone by then, so that's freed up. There's a certain percentage while you're raising kids at home. It's going to care for them and raise them and educate them and everything. Theoretically, those expenses start to go away. So you can understand at least the concept of what you're earning today is not what you're going to need to live off of in retirement. We can say that much, right? Yep. But to just whittle it down to a certain percentage and then assume that you're going to be able to live off of that same amount and let it grow at a certain inflation rate, it is more complicated than that.
Right, because if you're just looking at your expenses, or your income today, your salary today, and you say, well, we're going to spend 70% of that. How does healthcare factor into that? Are you paying 100% of your healthcare costs during your working career? Most of you are not. And it's not even factored into that 100%. Okay, you're going to spend 70% of your pre-retirement income. Healthcare is not even part of that equation. And yet, we would all agree it's going to either be the biggest expense you face in retirement or one of the biggest. So using this approach or that approach is oversimplified and you're underplanning. I'll give you another reason why I don't think many financial plans, many people plan for healthcare expenses, because financial professionals don't want to go there. Most financial advisors, they want to help you with your investment portfolio. That's it. These days, that's it doesn't cut it. So they're going to tell you, oh, we'll help you with your retirement plan as well, because that's what you're saving up for. But they have not wanted to go there and enter the mess and the mystery of, all right, well, wait a second. How does Medicare work? What are these prices? What's this big choice that you need to make between traditional Medicare or original Medicare and Medicare Advantage? Most investment advisors don't want to go there, and so they don't bring it up as part of the retirement analysis. That's my take.
I feel like that could get even worse in the future.
Yeah.
For one main reason. We've always said on this show that your certified financial planner should have other professionals that they're collaborating with, right? And that should be a health insurance expert who can help you figure out these Medicare type decisions. But even the Medicare agents, the specialists out there, they're getting squeezed, economically getting squeezed, because the government is no longer, or many of the insurance companies rather, that offer these Medicare supplement or Medicare Part D, prescription drug plans. They're no longer rewarding them for their help.
I wouldn't even say rewarded. They're no longer paying them.
Exactly. That's a better way to say it, I guess.
Josh,
more blunt.
Josh is just so nice. Yeah, I mean, the dirty little secret is, there are a number of insurance companies that have stopped paying commission on certain products. Well, what does that mean? You show me the incentive, I'll show you the behavior.
Right.
So do I have an incentive to help someone with this product? And this is where you really want to marry strategy with execution.
And here's why, if you're listening today, you're approaching retirement, maybe you're in retirement, you have to know this is happening, because in a way, the economics, those incentives that Kevin was saying, they are pushing people away from being a guide and a help with you, which means more of the responsibility to know and understand this is going to fall to you in the future.
That's right. And commission it can be a very dirty word, especially in the world of finance, because wait, is there a conflict of interest? Is there an incentive to recommend one product over another? No. In the health insurance world, we're talking about commission as just compensation for helping.
How does someone get paid?
How does someone get paid? All of them are all insurance tools are paid a commission, and it's pretty much the same. I don't think there's an incentive to offer one over the other when it comes to health insurance, and they're getting rid of that. Therefore, people are no longer we're approaching where people will no longer be paid for helping you make a healthcare decision. And Josh is absolutely right. More of this is on you. Now, how do you plan ahead, though? If you're still planning ahead for a future retirement, how do you plan ahead for this upcoming huge expense in retirement? We've got that and more coming up here on the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. Hello, YouTube. Thanks for being here. This is the Wise Money Show. What you're watching right now is our weekly 1-hour talk show that airs right here on this channel, 10 a.m. Eastern time every Saturday morning, and also on podcasts at the same time, and also on a couple local radio stations at the same time as well, which is why the content's structured the way that it is. We're on a commercial break right now for radio. We've got 10-minute segments, that sort of thing. Try to get some bonus content in here when Kevin's not coughing and losing a lung here
my
as
word.
well. But
hey, you see my cough button?
Yeah, you nailed it. It's perfect.
This is perfect.
Not real effective.
Well, it's nice because I'm going to carry this with me today
There
I cough throughout the day. Because I'll just watch this. I'll squeeze the button.
Can't even
hear it.
All right.
It's amazing.
But if this long form format is not your style, not your pace, we've got next wise step videos and shorts as well right here on this channel, all designed to help you take your next wise step in your financial life from a comprehensive strategy and execution, comprehensive financial planning perspective. So hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications so you're made aware every time we drop new content. And I want to hear from you. It's the dumbest financial question that you've ever heard. And we've probably said it. I've probably said it. But what financial question would you want to delete from the face of the earth? Mine is, what percentage of your pre-retirement income do you think you'll spend in retirement? Think about how dumb this is, guys. You've got to do some analysis or calculation. Why don't you spend that energy just trying to figure out what you think you'll actually spend?
What the actual number is?
It makes no sense.
That requires, though, that you have some skill and experience at budgeting today. Figure out, do you even know what you're spending right now? You know what you're earning. That's an easier number to work off of.
Yeah.
So,
all right, here we go. So how do you plan? So answering the question, how do you plan for healthcare and retirement? So it's 5 factors that will lead into a little Medicare 101. And then we get into the meat. So how do you plan for health insurance and Medicare expenses in retirement? Not on the doorstep. Okay, what are the decisions you need to make? Oh, that's huge. And your CFP should be helping you with that. We've had a lot of shows on that. We'll have that more in the future. But I'm talking about along the way, during your career, as you're saving up. Have you factored in healthcare expenses and Medicare to help determine how much you need to save up? If not, you probably don't have an accurate plan. How do you plan ahead? We're helping with that right now. This is the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. Thanks for being here. My name is Mike Bernard. With me in the KFG studios, Kevin Korhorn and Josh Gregory. Stay up to date on all Wise Money content. Find us online, wisemoneyshow.com, and then all over social media, wherever you're at, we are there as well. Search the Wise Money Show. All right. So calling it to question, how do you plan ahead? We've belly ached for a full segment. How do you plan ahead for healthcare expenses?
Well, and specifically in retirement,
Yeah.
As soon as you start talking about retirement, you know where we're going. We're going to a 5-factor retirement forecast, a plan where you have thought through the 5 different decision points or variables that you have some control and some influence over. So knowing, well, where does Medicare fall in the 5 factors, I think is a key. It has some bearing, or it is influenced by the age that you retire, because there may be some gap years where you've retired before you're even eligible for Medicare.
We're going to get to that.
Okay, so the age that you retire has bearing on healthcare in general, but specifically, probably the most direct place is in the second area, which is your spending. How much are you going to spend in retirement? And yes, we've been ranting about why that shouldn't just be a certain percentage of your current income during your working career. Instead, it should be a lifestyle number, and maybe even a full-blown, built-out budget that you're forecasting. Some people will really get into the nitty-gritty details. But your healthcare is something that we add on top of that. So we think of the lifestyle number as sort of, what are you going to live off of? I think take-home pay. The amount of your paycheck right now that's landing in your bank account after taxes have been pulled off the top, after you've contributed to your 401k, maybe after you've paid any employee portion of healthcare with your employer's plan. What is that take-home pay? That's the lifestyle number. But then in retirement, you've got to replace those other things that were peeled off the top of your paycheck, like healthcare expenses, the insurance premiums that you pay to the government or to an insurance company. And then we throw on taxes on top of that, and there may be other expenses that you build in as well. But this is fundamentally, it's a spending question.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. That's where it lands. And at least in our planning, we have base expenses or lifestyle. That is one number. And then an additional, and here's why. That number then has an inflation component. We've talked about that before. Inflation is, we've got to get it under control here. As a country, we have trended near 2%. We plan on 3% as we're projecting out. But healthcare and retirement, or Medicare expenses and retirement, that is a separate line item in our planning for the clients that we serve as a spending number. Why? So that we can forecast that out when it shifts. But the other reason is we apply a different inflation component to it. The average inflation component that we add is a 5% annual compound increase on your Medicare expenses. Why? Is that some mathematically derived figure? Well, partly, but it's also a statement of, current Medicare costs seem, and the structure of Medicare seem a little unsustainable. So those prices are likely to go up even faster than normal inflation. Let's just bake that into the plan.
Yep. I personally feel like maybe this conversation today has me kind of begging the question, well, is 5% enough? Or, and that's based on what we know today, but if the plan or if the Medicare system is going to have to make adjustments over time, then do we need to maybe bake in some additional out-of-pocket costs into the lifestyle number? And what I mean by that is most people that we work with, if they end up going on Medicare at age 65, they get a Medicare supplement in place to fill in the gaps that Medicare Part A and B don't cover. And then they also add the prescription drug coverage. Many people report to us, man, this is the best coverage I've ever had.
Yeah.
They don't have much in the way of out-of-pocket costs quite often. But what if that's not true in the future? What if one of the ways that the Medicare system tries to right the ship a little bit or make it more sustainable is they do start to put more and more cost onto the taxpayers ultimately?
Well, they've already done it.
Or the patient.
They've already done it.
The question is, have they done enough?
Yeah. Will they keep doing more?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. When you look at the big 5 expenses in retirement, housing, transportation, food, healthcare, and taxes.
Yeah, most people think health care is going to be your biggest expense. It's likely going to be housing. I would go on record to say it's probably going to be taxes, but healthcare is definitely in the top 5. And depending on your situation, certainly if you have assisted living or nursing home needs, it could easily be number 1.
Right. And what I'm proposing is for sure they need to adjust it, but they've been passing these costs along via Medicare Part B, and you can't get out of it. Right. Mm-hmm. That's the one I can't avoid. It really doesn't matter. So that is one of the ways. I think when they're absolutely forced, I do believe the system is going to work and Congress is going to come up with a solution. I don't know what it'll be. I don't know if it'll be more expensive. I don't know if it'll be cheaper. I don't know if technology is going to solve some problems for us. But even transportation is in that list. And what if robo-taxis solve the problem and no one owns a car anymore? I don't think your transportation cost is going to be 14 to 16% of your retirement expense. So there are all kinds of things that we're looking at in the future that you say, hey, these could change. But for sure, if I'm in my 50s, I would want to know, how does it work now?
Yep.
So that I can put together some pro formas working with my planner, my certified financial planner, and say, hey, how are we prepared? And what does my scenario look like with 14% or a number with that number? What if I doubled that number? Is it sustainable? What if that number was half? What does it look like?
That's right. You start playing around with the assumptions in the spending area, and it will have an impact in other areas, the other 5 factors. And for many people, it's going to show up in a new number, maybe a larger number that you need to be saving on an annual basis or a monthly basis. Maybe you need to be contributing a little bit more to your retirement because of this bigger potential expense for healthcare. I would also point to the 5th of our 5 factors, and that is the growth rate or the risk assumptions that you're placing on your portfolio. How much rate of return is possible in your portfolio? Many people want to be as conservative as they can in retirement, but that number is it's not flat growth. Like, this is not savings rate or CDs in the bank that are going to be able to help you afford retirement in general, but especially when you've got an area of your spending that's going to grow 5%, maybe more, then you need to be getting a better rate of return on your portfolio. Don't go too conservative when you get into retirement.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. The connection between what you're saying, the investment risk you're comfortable taking in that 5-factor retirement plan, golly, if healthcare could be increasing at 5% or more, but your investment portfolio is structured to earn 3 or 4%, yeah, that math isn't going to work. Yep. Okay, Medicare 101. Josh started talking a little bit about it, but you're going to make the biggest health insurance decision of your life when you retire. Now, if you retire before age 65 and you've got a big decision to fill in the gap years, we're going to get to that in just a second, how you plan for it. But when you turn 65, you're eligible for Medicare. Medicare is one word, but it's multiple things. And it's kind of funny. My folks, we get in this argument because my mom is playing Mahjong. You know that game?
No.
Or like card games or whatever with her friends.
I know what card games are.
And I can't even spell Mahjong. But they're playing games, and someone's talking about their Medicare and how how it works. And then my mom's looking at her Medicare and it's like, mine doesn't work that way. I'm getting ripped off. Medicare, the same thing, is actually 2 different things. You can do traditional Medicare, Medicare A, B, D, and then a supplement. And by the way, there's lots of choice there with supplements and some choices there with Part D. Or that's all Medicare, like traditional Medicare or original Medicare, I think is what they call it. A, B, D, and a supplement. Or you can go Medicare Part C, which is Medicare Advantage. They're both called Medicare. Very, very different cost structure, coverage structure. So when you're 45 or 40 or 50 or 55 and you're planning ahead and you're building out that 5-factor retirement plan, well, what numbers do you use? Do you assume that you're going original Medicare? Do you assume that you're doing Medicare Advantage, Medicare Part C? And if so, what numbers should you use? we're going to share with you kind of the breakdown, kind of Medicare 101, the breakdown of what those monthly costs are and what we would suggest and what we use to forecast for our clients. We got that and more coming up here on the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. Mahjong. And I'm not,
I don't even know what that is.
Not picking. So Lindsay, you know it? My mom loves it. It's fun, apparently. And they'll play it all afternoon. They'll eat grapes and walnuts.
Is it like a board game, or are they playing video games now?
What's that?
What? Domino pieces?
Wait.
Yeah.
So are you supposed to
Eat grapes and walnuts?
Yeah.
I think that's optional.
Oh, okay.
I think it's optional. It's funny. So we're saying that now.
I like walnuts in the form of oatmeal raisin cookies.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to get out there. So what, 40 years from now, and kids are going to be complaining about us playing, I don't know, solitaire or like some other games or whatever that's totally normal.
Uno.
Yeah, that's right. These guys play Yahtzee, Monopoly. What, have you ever heard of Monopoly? I can't even spell Monopoly. Right. That's what it's going to be. Actually, we're going to find out just how fun those games are. We're all going to play them. So, okay, here we go. Segment 3. Medicare 101, and then talking about, well, what do you do if you retire before Medicare? How do you plan for that? And then, gosh, it'll be rapid fire in that last segment, doing those 3 wild cards. So here we go. Helping you plan ahead for Medicare expenses, healthcare expenses in retirement. And we're going to get to brass tacks here. What number do you plug in? When you're planning, when you're projecting, what actual number? We're going to tell you what we use for our clients and how we get there. We got that right now. This is the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. Thanks for being here. My name is Mike Bernard. With me in the KFG studios, Kevin Korhorn and Josh Gregory. Every episode of The Wise Money Show is on podcast wherever you listen. Just search The Wise Money Show. Subscribe to it there. Rate the program there as well. We appreciate it. You can share it as well. Those, friends and family members that are nearing retirement, and maybe you think they're in that large group of people that are not planning ahead for health care in retirement, you can share this episode and help them take their next wise step in retirement. Okay, guys, so the point is, when you're building out your 5-factor retirement plan and saving up to see, well, are you on track? If you're not, should you save more? Do you need to work a little bit longer? Do you need to change some of these variables? If you're not planning for healthcare expenses, then you're not planning correctly. It's going to be one of your largest expenses. It needs to be baked into that plan so that it can be factored into, are you on track, and what adjustments do you need to make? So therefore, what number? So you're going to make this huge choice with Medicare. Traditional Medicare, A, B, D, and a supplement, or Medicare Part C, Medicare Advantage. As you plan ahead, not that you're going to make this decision a decade in advance, I would plan ahead as if you are doing traditional Medicare. I'm actually assuming you likely won't. I think trends are shifting, and I think fast forward 5 years, 10 years, I think more and more people are going to be doing Medicare Advantage. That's not a recommendation. I'm just looking at the costs and the trends. But I think you should prepare as if you're doing original Medicare, traditional Medicare, because that's a bigger monthly cost. And I would want you to err being a little bit more conservative. Part A, for many people, that's your hospital care. That's typically at no additional premium, typically, okay? Part B, you're going to be paying this whether you go traditional Medicare or Medicare Advantage. So hear me.
Even and you're not really, it's not going to seem like you're paying it because it's likely going to come out of your Social Security check.
That's right. But even if you go with Medicare Part C, you still have to pay the Medicare Part B premium. And the base rate this year in 2026 is $202.90. That's per person. If you are subject to IRMAA based on your modified adjusted gross income from 2 years ago, oh my goodness, have you fallen asleep? We have lost everyone. This is so complicated. It's just so boring.
It's fantastic.
Okay, it's fun. Kevin's having fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so $202.90 per month per person. That's the base rate, and it goes up every year.
So if I'm married, it's $404 per month.
Yeah.
And you don't see it because it is reduced out of your Social Security. That's direct deposited into your checking account.
Yep.
And this is how, if you said, how do you get people to do things without squealing?
Yeah, right.
You just do it without letting them see it.
And that's why every year when we talk about the cost of living adjustment with Social Security, there's then this frustration about, well, how much is that going to go towards Medicare? Because it literally does come right out of your Social Security. So that's Part B, okay? And then traditional Medicare, A, no additional cost, typically. B, $202.90. Part D, you have a choice of your prescription drug plans. Let's call it $25 a month. A lot of them are 20, some are 17, but those prices are on the rise as well.
Some are even cheaper.
Yep. And then a supplement, you've got choices there as well. Assume $175. Maybe $150, could be a little bit higher, something like that. So if you add that up per person, $202.90 plus 25 plus 175, we're talking $400 a month per person.
Per month. Yep.
Yeah. So you do that math, $4,800 per person per year. We've been using in our planning software, we've been using $5,000 a year for healthcare expenses plus a 5% compound inflation rate. And when Medicare jumped another 10, almost 11% last year to this year, we actually moved that up. We're now projecting $5,400. And there was some debate this year about, well, should we go even higher? And part of that's because, no, we want to have extra buffer and extra room because we do think costs are going up. So what Josh said, 10, 15 minutes ago about, well, should you plan in your retirement plan of even more out of pocket? We have this discussion as all of our planners every single year, sometimes twice a year. What numbers should we be using to forecast for our clients? And that's what we use. Okay, we're currently using $5,400. Now, if you go with Medicare Advantage, you are still going to be paying the Part B rate, $202.90. And then you may be going with a plan that doesn't even have an out-of-pocket cost or might have a small out-of-pocket cost. It might include drug coverage, or you might have to add on Part D. It's very possible.
And when you say out of pocket, you mean premiums.
Premium. Yep, premium.
Because there will be out of pocket costs.
Correct.
Like when you go to the doctor, you're going to pay a copay, and there's deductibles. I mean, there's a lot of out of pocket costs. That's kind of the idea. This is similar to maybe you make a decision right now during your working career. Do I go with the Cadillac option that my employer offers, or do I go with a high deductible option? And when you go with a higher deductible, you get a lower premium, but you're rolling the dice. You're assuming that I'm going to be healthy most of the time, and I'm not going to be going to the doctor, not having lots of procedures, that sort of thing.
And that's the point, because if you think, if you're hanging with us and you're, say, 55 and you've already done this analysis or you've already thought through it and you say, I don't know, I'm doing Medicare Advantage, so therefore I'm just assuming $200 a month for my healthcare expenses in retirement, you're not planning for any out-of-pocket costs.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's likely you're under preparing. So therefore, I would still plan ahead for $400 a month as opposed to $200 a month or $250, which is what you might be paying in premium today if you were on Medicare Advantage.
So let me sort that out just a little bit. Mike said that we assume that our clients are preparing for traditional Medicare and they're going to have a Medicare supplement. They're layering their coverages, and it all totals up to now $5,400 per year, a little more than $400 per month. We're saying budget that way because even if you go the other option, the Medicare Advantage option, you might have less premiums than $5,400 per year. You might have some savings in a lot of years because you're healthy, you're not needing a lot of health care costs or anything. But there are going to be many years where you do.
Yeah.
And that's where the out-of-pocket costs start to come back and will start to eat into that $5,400 budget.
Yep. Yeah, that's how we're making the sausage, guys. Whether that's interesting to you or not, you've got to be planning ahead. Most people are not, and that's how we're doing it.
Yeah, and the truth is, if it's very possible that you're paying more, we have a number of clients who are paying more for their health care in retirement than they did while they were working. Yeah. Because if you start blowing through those different tiers of IRMAA, I mean, you could, the most you could spend right now is $689.90. So say $700 for IRMAA. Well, if it's $700 for me, it's $700 for my wife.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden, the $5,400 just on Part B is up by $3,000.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
We'll get back to that now, but let's take a detour first. What if you're planning to retire before age 65? I think many people are. We talked just a few weeks ago about the trends of, well, even if you plan to retire at 65, many people retire about 2.2 years earlier than that. So if you're planning for 65, likely you could retire around 63. You're going to have some gaps there. How do you plan for that? I think a lot of people, again, just assume, I don't know, it's a percentage of my take-home income or whatever. No. So for us, $1,000 per person per month. Yeah. And we've got it as a line item in the plan, pre-65 or pre-Medicare health expenses. Or so Kevin's pre-Medicare health expenses and $1,000 a month, again, at that 5% compound inflation. And then same, spouse, pre-Medicare.
And there are ways around that, but only if you've started planning. If you're in your early 50s, you start planning now for that.
Mm-hmm. And what is that going to pay for? This is assuming that you're probably going out to the marketplace and you're looking for an Affordable Care Act type of plan for you. You might be able to pick a cheaper option that has a higher deductible, maybe is even HSA eligible, that sort of thing. The point is that you have options if you have cash to spend on it, right? And there are some people that delay retirement just simply because they don't want to stomach the idea of spending that kind of money on healthcare, even if they could afford it. It's just hard for them to write the check, so to speak.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I don't blame you. Okay, so now there's wild cards. So that's how you plan ahead. That's how you build that in. If you're just doing an online calculator, or gosh, worse yet, your financial professional is just doing some simple online, hasn't gone through a full 5-factor retirement analysis, you are not planning appropriately. And therefore, if I can just be so bold, the output, whatever information's telling you, is not reliable. I wouldn't make the biggest financial decision of your life based off of that. But in addition to what we just shared, there's 3 wild cards. Kevin mentioned one, IRMAA. Second one's HSA. Third one Is long-term care, sort of assisted living, nursing home? How do you plan ahead for all of those things? We got that and more coming up here on the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. Lindsay, are you sure that was only 3 segments? It feels like 7. Okay. 4 segment.
Say again, you said something, was it 2.2 years? That's the age that people often retire before being eligible for Medicare. So you're basically saying average retirement age is 90 or 62 and change.
Yeah. So that's what the research that we did on a show a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
I was like zoned out and came back to you saying 2.2, and I thought that's maybe what you were.
Yeah. But I think the research said that people tend to retire 2.2 years earlier than they planned.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, a lot of people are planning, like the average age that people are planning for is 65.
Right. I got you.
All right, here we go. IRMAA, HSA, long-term care. We're not going to be able to get too deep in any of these, and basically the premise, IRMAA is going to work against your plan, and HSA could help your plan. Long-term care, you need a separate plan. Here we go. Thanks for being here. This is the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. My name is Mike Bernard. With me in the KFG studios, Kevin Korhorn and Josh Gregory. Every episode of the Wise Money Show, as well as a lot of other content, is on the Wise Money YouTube channel. Go to YouTube, search the Wise Money Show, subscribe to it there, and you turn on notifications. You're made aware every time we drop new content. Not only is this talk show and all of them going back, gosh, we're wrapping up our 11th season, guys. I had a lot more hair back when we started, and fewer wrinkles, smaller forehead, yep, all that. But yeah, we've been posting all of the shows on the YouTube channel for a while. But in addition to that, this is long form. We've got short form videos as well, helping you take your next wise step in your financial life. So well over the library on the YouTube channel, well over 2,000 videos. So go to YouTube, search the Wise Money Show, subscribe to it there. Turn on notifications so you're made aware every time we drop new content. All right, we're talking about planning ahead for health insurance or healthcare expenses in retirement. We shared kind of just open book here, how we plan ahead with our clients. You can take it and run with it. However, it's very, very complicated, multifaceted. And so, of course, we're going to urge you got to work with your CFP, build out that 5-factor retirement plan, continue to update that because we're reviewing these numbers and analysis at least once a year and making adjustments. There's 3 wild cards, though, because if you're just planning for Medicare, that's assuming that everything stays the course and, there's no storms and there's no challenges. There's likely to be some. One of the wild cards is IRMAA, and Kevin already mentioned it. You've got some influence on this, but this is where, above and beyond that base rate of $202.90 per person per month for Medicare Part B, you may have to pay an additional amount, and also it increases your Medicare Part B as well. So, what's IRMAA, and can you plan ahead for this, or what do you do?
Yeah, we talk about IRMAA a lot on the show. It's an acronym. It stands for Income-Related Monthly Adjustment Amount, hence the reason we call it IRMAA. It's kind of a mouthful, but just think means testing. This is, if you can afford to pay more, the government's going to charge you more. And most people are going to fall under that first tier, that first threshold, and they're going to pay the standard amount for their Medicare Part B premiums and their Medicare Part D premiums. And or surcharge, if you will. So if you are under $218,000 on your income 2 years ago, let's complicate it just a little bit more here. We have to look back 2 years to see where your income even fell on these thresholds. So right now in 2026, we're looking at 2024 income. If that income was under $218,000, then you get to spend the base rate, $202.90 per month per person. We went through all that in our last segment.
That's married filing jointly. It's half that. This is one of the unique areas where it's just half if you're a single filer or filing separately.
But here's why we talk about this so much on the show. This threshold, if you go over $218,000 by $1, you are now into the next tier, and you're going to have a higher premium that is being charged. You jump from $202 to $284. a meaningful amount. That's per person per month increase again. And then on top of that, your Medicare Part D premiums will jump by another $14.50. So again, that $1 could cost you dearly. It is part of the reason why so much, anytime we're talking about income in retirement, we start zeroing in on these thresholds. It's the reason why it's so important for you to be paying attention to your tax projections and just forecasting, where am I going to land so that I can budget appropriately.
And you might say, okay, well, that's not that big a deal. Extra $75 or whatever, $80 for every 218,000, you're good. Nope. No. About $60,000 later is when you hit the third tier, and it's not just an $80 increase. It doubles the price. Instead of $202.90, you're paying $405.80, and then it continues to go up from there. Now, if you look at this is where you need to work with your CFP, because looking at your financial situation and the war chest you're building for retirement, looking at all 5 factors, your retirement income, how much you have saved up, if it looks like, we've saved up enough and we've got pensions and whatnot, we're going to be in IRMAA territory. There's no way to plan around it. We can plan to try and stay in some lower tiers, but we're going to be in IRMAA. Guess what? You need to include that in your planning. It would no longer be appropriate to assume $5,400 per person per year for healthcare expenses. If you believe, based on our situation, we forecasted it out, we're going to be in IRMAA territory. It's just a question of which tier. You need to infuse that into your planning. If you're on the border, though, that's when, even in your 40s, your 50s, you need to be working with your CFP to start doing some IRMAA planning then, so that you can, all right, well, what adjustments can we make now so that we hopefully can stay below the IRMAA threshold out there in retirement?
Because the 75-year-old you should be calling back to you saying, hey, get prepared. Mm-hmm. Because you can financially paint yourself into a corner using just pre-tax money to save for retirement. If the only way I prepare for retirement is with pre-tax dollars, I meaningfully limit my options.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so if you said, I want to optimize for how do I do healthcare, it's not just how do I do healthcare, it's how do I do taxes? Who's going to pay taxes on this money? Yeah. And I think of the couple that's got $5 million in retirement plans and one child, one beneficiary. Well, guess what? If they're both gone tomorrow, that one beneficiary is going to have to pay taxes on $5 million over the next 10 years.
Yep.
And so we're looking at how far do you go through these IRMAA brackets and willingly pay taxes today so that my beneficiary won't have to.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So this is why you need strategy and execution, looking at all 6 areas of your financial life, because we're talking about health insurance. That's really protection planning. But we're talking about it in retirement, so that's retirement planning. But the price you pay is going to be based off of your tax planning, specifically tax planning throughout your career. That's tax planning. All of this impacts your cash flow, present financial position. I mean, there's just no way to separate these different parts of your financial life. They need to be infused together. That's how you should be planning. Now, second wild card, HSA. This one can help you. There is not an HSA eligible Medicare supplement plan right now. So if you're on Medicare, that's sort of I'm no longer able to fund my HSA. But here's a wild card. If you're saving up, if you got a high deductible health plan, HSA eligible high deductible health plan during your career, and you're saving up in your HSA and you don't use all those dollars, or you're intentional about those dollars where you're shoeboxing your HSA, we don't have time to go deep into that strategy. Your HSA can be used to help you pay for healthcare expenses in retirement. It's there as a resource. It helps your plan. And it might help in a way that doesn't really make sense. You are allowed to use your HSA, even in retirement on Medicare, for out-of-pocket medical expenses, qualified medical expenses. Yeah, that makes sense. But it can also help you with your Medicare premiums. And you might say, oh, well, the supplement ones, right? The ones that I pay out of pocket. Nope, not allowed. It can help you reimburse yourself for your Medicare Part B. Wait, you mean the ones that I don't even pay out of pocket? The ones that they're forced to come out of my Social Security? Yes, that's the one you can reimburse yourself for from your HSA. Totally confusing, but building up your HSA throughout your career that can help you plan ahead for this huge expense in retirement, health care. All right, last wrinkle, and there's not a ton of time, but guys, it's a completely different planning approach, and that is how does healthcare expense go from top 5 expense to the number 1 expense, the biggest expense in retirement, as if you have a long-term care need?
That's right. Long-term care needs, these are, think more custodial type care. This is, I need help with what we refer to as activities of daily living. It's the normal stuff like getting dressed, using the restroom, bathing, moving around, like walking or transferring from a seated position to a standing. Like if you need that kind of care, especially if it becomes skilled care that's needed, this is where, man, that's needed often throughout the whole day, maybe 24 hours a day. You can rack up some serious medical or healthcare costs because of a long-term care need, and you can burn through a lot of savings rapidly.
In your 50s, long-term care insurance is an option. I would consider it. There are also different hybrids. So there's a life insurance long-term care option. There's an annuity long-term care option. Or how do I private pay? Because I have friends right now and their mother needs care and they can't afford any of the choices that they're looking at.
Yeah, so planning ahead for your retirement plan, ideally you're transferring that risk to an insurance company. You build that insurance premium into your plan, and that is the ideal way to plan ahead. But you need to be planning ahead working with your CFP. I hope that helps. That's all the time we have for today. On behalf of Josh Gregory, Kevin Korhorn, all of us at KFG, have a great weekend. We'll see you next Saturday for the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group.
Securities offered through Silver Oak Securities, member FINRA/SIPC. Advisory services offered through KFG Wealth Management, LLC. Doing business as Korhorn Financial Group. KFG Wealth Management, LLC and Silver Oak Securities Incorporated companies are unaffiliated.